monopolizing the floor. I will let her speak by herself, introduce herself, and then go through her talk. Thank you, Marlene. You have the floor.
Thank you. I just see a lot of name here. I hope there's people behind there. Can I get them to do a reaction or something? So I know I'm talking to some people. I'm just talking to myself. Are you able in Zoom? I just want to see if there's people out there. Hey. Even on if you can turn on your video, that's also nice. It's always nice to see interaction. Hey, face-to-face conversations. I've heard that somewhere is very powerful. Let's start sharing. Oh, I cannot share my screen. Is that, I think, host, you need to allow me to share my screen.
Yeah, let me just allow you to be the host.
Let's see. So I have some interactive slides, which means if you take your phone up or go to the URL, you will actually be able to comment, and there will be different questions along the way. So we make this much more fun and not just me talking. I can see there's not that many on the call, which means if you have a question or something along the way, please just unmute yourself, hey, and let's have a conversation. Again, I do appreciate face-to-face conversation instead of just me speaking. As I wait here, I can see some people also writing in the chat. I won't have my, if I look down, it's because then I'm trying to look at the chat. It's sometimes a bit disturbing to try to engage with you guys and look at the chat. So if you have something to say, please just unmute yourself and comment it. I can only see if so far there's one person that's live on my slides. You're more than welcome to take up your phone and scan the QR code. Then it actually becomes like this little remote to the slide, and it becomes so much more fun. One of the first thing, just so we can see it, hey. So that's me. I could tell I had to represent myself. It was true what Abigail was saying. I have many, many years of experience in Agile. I think it's nearly 15 years now or something like that. I have fulfilled through the years all Scrum accountabilities, from developers to Scrum Masters to product owner. And the last 8 years, I've been an Agile coach and trainer. But that's not like, you're not here to learn about me, hey? You're actually learning about how do we make the C-suite Agile without Agile. So this is a big topic, hey? When I prepped these slides for today, I was like, wow, this is a massive topic, and I'm not sure where we're going. But let's see. If you're not working with the C-suite, there should also be stuff to learn, because there's some models I'm going to share that you can actually use in anything. Because the trick is actually, let me maybe start there. The trick is, it's all human. Even if it's a C-suite, they're still human. They still need to learn. So if you don't work with C-suite, you could also just read this title as how to make any team agile without Agile. This is a good example on interactive slide. People are not on mute. Can I ask the host to mute the person? It's a bit disturbing.
I've muted for you.
Thank you. So let's see if people are just listening in for the sake of listening in, or if you're actually being interactive. You're able to join the slides and then actually tell me who's in the room. Who should I focus on? If you're a Scrum Master, Agile coach, I would actually like to know who we are. You can also put it in the chat, and I will have an eye on the chat if that's easier. Just for me to understand, where should I focus this talk on so you get the most out of it? Because the thing is, when I talk, I like for people to get the most out of the talk. You're my customer today, right? I could talk, and if it doesn't add value to you, why am I then here? Let's just get a second. Agile coach and PM. Scrum Master in the chat also. Oh, if you have a, I don't know, Android, iPhone, I know, if you go into just the camera on your phone and hold it up against the QR code, it actually scans, and you click on it and you go in to the browser. You cannot just in the browser type ahaslides.com/VAAA23, then you also get into them. And it actually becomes this remote to things you can put in. New to Scrum. Okay, I'll try to also then make it easier for you to understand. So as I said, it doesn't have to be the C-suite. It can be any team we're working with. You can benefit from this. Now, the thing is, you told me a little bit there, one of you guys, I'm new to Scrum, but I would like to know, where are we? How much do you already know about Scrum? Just so I know, okay, should I be on a high level? Should I go more in details? Again, it's really so I can make sure I add the most value to you guys. Everybody thinks they know, hey? I think I know it all. That's actually the scary part if you think you know it all, hey? Can we truly know it all? The good thing about these slides, I can't see who answered what. So it's not, I'm not here to point out your experience or anything. You can hopefully that will create a more safer space for you to answer. I can see in the chat also people are saying, I'm knowing nothing about Scrum. I'm green to Scrum, completely new. I will try to keep it on a lower level so we can all follow it. Just a little trick here. You can see even the question I ask here is new to me. I know a little. I think I know it all. I always think number 4 is actually challenging because how can we know it all? The more you learn about Agile and Scrum, the more you know you don't know, and the more there is to know. So like one of the big things of being a Scrum Master, Agile coach is actually self-awareness. And the whole thing about create awareness about it's okay to not know it all. We are not here to solve everybody's problem. We're here to create an environment for people to solve their own problem. And that's actually what we need to dig into a little bit today. So I love this question. And now I know some of you say you don't know nothing, but I would like you to take a stab. If you had to answer this question to me, what is Agile actually? And again, you're also more than welcome to put into the chat. The more people that joins the slides, the more answer we have on the slides. I will be sharing the slides afterwards, then you at least have the answers. So again, we don't have the stuff that comes into the chat. Agile is the ability to adapt and be nimble. So I love this question. And I always say, if we have, how many do we have in the room today? We have 23 people. If we have a room of 23 people and they all answer, we will end up with 35 different answers. Because even though Agile is actually quite simple, it's actually also so complex because we don't have one description of what is it actually. One of the things I try to always simplify it down to is actually, this quote. So what it comes down to for me is actually to go away. I have changed my Agile approach or coaching approach over the last 3 years to actually talk much less about Agile and actually focus much more about how can we become better tomorrow? Because that's what it's about. If you think about it, how do you transform leaders to be Agile without Agile? That's the big question, right? And if you think about that, if it's just more like, how do we get better tomorrow? It actually becomes much more simplified. And again, it doesn't be, now we have a lot of call that is new to Agile. It doesn't have to be leaders. It's actually anybody you work with. What is the simplicity we can change tomorrow to become better? And if you think about it, let's jump over this one because there's not so many. One of the big things we need to look into is actually why. Way too often, I see people doing Agile for the sake of Agile? Can anybody, I don't know if you want with your action on your Zoom account, do you recognize that people want Agile for the sake of Agile? Just give me like a thumbs up if you recognize that or something. You guys are very quiet today, eh? There, I see some hands. I want to share a story with you guys. So now I'm stepping into what have we done. I started in a company recently where I'm the Agile practice lead. So basically, I am responsible for making them Agile. It's a big company. It's actually one of South Africa's biggest insurance companies. And my manager came to me and said, your purpose is to make this company Agile. I actually looked up on him. We were in a room full of people. And I looked up on him and said, that will never be my purpose. And he was like, what? I thought he thought he was a good manager walking in. See, now this chat is distracting me. I'm trying to read what you guys are writing while I'm also speaking. Sorry for that. So he thought he was like a good manager coming in, walking into me and saying like, here is your purpose. That must drive you. I said like, but the purpose should never be to become Agile. What value is that? So we see a lot of companies saying like, oh, we need to be Agile, we need to be Agile, I need to be Agile, I need to be Agile. But what is the purpose of it? We don't have why is the idea behind it? Why are we then doing it? Because guess what? One of the things in Agile is to adding value. Coming Agile just for the sake of it doesn't mean that it's adding purpose or value for that sake. So I really want you, if you sit today in a company or a team or something, or even a man saying we need to be Agile for the sake of it, you have to come up with a better, and you need to challenge them on the why. So the whole thing about being Agile without Agile is actually understanding what problem are we trying to solve. So as the Agile practice lead, where my responsible is to make Old Mutual Agile, but my purpose is not to make them Agile. Well, how does that go hand in hand? I did a lot of thinking, and my first action towards my manager was saying, I'm not here to make the company Agile. I'm here to make them great. Yes, it's true. I'll probably use the Agile tools and practice to do it. But I want to solve some real challenges. To give you an example, my own personal purpose of why I do what I do is actually this. This is what gets me up in the morning. I'll give you a second to read it. And it's not about Agile. In this purpose, actually, I don't write Agile once, hey? But everything I do is around Agile. That's the interesting thing. So if I come down to it, because some slides back here, why are we doing it? That's the first question you have to ask yourself. Working a team, working in a company, working as a Scrum Master, as a coach, it doesn't matter. The first question we always have to ask ourselves is, why are we actually doing this? What are the problems we need to solve? First model I want to share with you is the spine model. That's the one, it's actually quite simple when you know it. That's the one that always helped me to remember. Let's first understand the needs. So what many people do wrong, if I'm allowed to use that word, is we jump into tools and practices. Have any of you, now I saw there were some Scrum Masters on the line. Have you been as a Scrum Master saying, we need to do daily Scrum, we need to do retrospective, we need to have a Kanban board, we need to implement Jira. All of these things, we see it as a checkbox actually. It doesn't make you more Agile. Why are you doing it? So as an Agile coach, as a Scrum Master, we need to understand much more what is the need of the problem, or what is the problem we're trying to solve. I don't see many coaches and Scrum Masters take that approach where they say, why is it actually we do a daily Scrum? No, you're not doing a daily Scrum because you as Scrum Master have to implement the Scrum framework. You have to understand what are we trying to solve. Because if we don't focus on we're trying to solve, how are we going to measure to see if it works? Then we're just doing things for the sake of doing it. That's not being agile. It doesn't add value. When you have that, then of course you need to understand the values and principle that will drive the right solution. And yes, with us being agile, it's probably the agile manifesto and principle and the lean understanding that drives us. And first, should we go down saying, based on our tool bag full of stuff, what can we then put in? So for example, with a big C-suite or another team, like instead of going into them and saying, you need to be agile, many companies also comes to me, we need to be agile. My first question will always be, but why? You need to have one slider, not you don't have to create it, but even for your team, create a slide that tells us what are we actually trying to achieve? What do we want to change? How does the future look like if we achieve this? Because then you have something to drive you towards instead of just doing agile. It's also a bloody much powerful conversation to have. To give you an example, the company I work in right now, some of the key things they want to change is they're too slow to get to the customer. Often what we hear, right? They want to be customers' first choice. They struggle with bottlenecks in the system. Now it gives me some clear direction as agile coach, what to help them work on to solve more than just make them agile. If we go agile, I made the example to my boss saying, if you say my purpose is making this company agile, if I got them all to stand up in the morning, I got them all to have a Kanban board, we implement Jira, and I get Scrum Masters all over. Have I then made them agile? And he was like, yeah, that sounds right. Okay, if you're going to measure me on that, give me only 1 month and I've made this whole company agile. So what this one also show you, and what I want you to be aware of, is often what I personally refer to doing agile with the capital A. It doesn't add much value. It's just a checkbox. And where we see a lot of anti-patterns where people put things in place, but they actually don't change the way they work or their behavior. A lot of you said agile is about mindset and behavior. That is so true. We want them to change up here where it's about being agile with a lower A. So with any teams, the first thing you need to understand is why are they going agile? Next thing, to fully embrace as a Scrum Master, as an Agile coach, you can't change people. You don't need to fix people or to be forced to change. You don't have to be the person that changes, especially, again, I'm going to use Scrum Master as an example, because I think there's a lot of Scrum Masters more than Agile coaches on the call. For me, it's actually 2 different names, same thing. The idea is to help the person understand what is the problem we are trying to solve. I have some suggestions based on my experiences, but it's actually up to you to make the change. You can't make the change for them because then it's not sustainable. What does that mean? One of the big things I've been working with, especially in the environment of the C-suite I'm working with right now, is to actually go away of saying we need to change. If you think about the word change, it has such a negative, loaded mindset. I don't know if you have seen the cartoon ever. I love that joke. I should have included in the slides about who wants change. Everybody wants change. Who wants change? Nobody has their hands up. No, people likes to change, right? Because it's like feels negative. What I am right now is not enough, and I need to change. Because the words and the way I start to talk about is, can we grow into something better? Can we grow to become better? Who doesn't want to grow? It goes with a huge belief in people that people are doing the best what they're doing right now based on what they know. But if we upskill and train, we can continuously grow. It's not about changing. It's about creating a better understanding where we can grow together and become better. So again, we take away this whole thing about just being agile for the sake of it and understand every day we should become better by growing and evolve of what we do. That's the very simplicity of Agile. I do this conversation again without talking about Agile, but simply understand what is our problem and what can we do to improve it. We don't need to implement a big framework. We don't need to talk big tools and practices to have that conversation. But it's back to, you have to remember you can't change people. So how do you then do it? There's a different model I want you to be aware of as a Scrum Master and Agile coach, and it's the H theory of change. So as we acknowledge we can't force change on people, we have to understand what, like, how do we then, I don't like that word, how do we then change them? How can we impact change? Or in my situation, or in my, using my own words, growing. The model here is a little bit, I like to call it the iceberg, like a big mountain here. You are on the one side, the familiarity, where you know what you have, you know how it is, and everything you do is based on what you know. It's very nice to be here. On the other side is the unknown. We don't know how it looks like. We don't know how it will work. And it's very, what can we call it? It's very unsafe area if you don't know, because us as humans, we like to know, right? We like to know how it feels. Your job often as a Scrum Master, as a coach, is you stand over here because you have a lot of experience with Agile. You've seen teams work well with the stand-up. You've seen teams do well with a specific Agile tool. It doesn't mean that it automatically will work for this team over here. But what you can do is help them see how it could look like over here. So instead of forcing stuff on them, use this model to help understand. How can you help these people understand, go over the edge to see the new world? And remember the whole Agile mindset of let's experiment. We don't know if these things will solve your problem. To begin, what is our problem? We have a problem. I love to make the example of collaboration. I've seen many Scrum Masters saying we need to stand up in the morning because Scrum says so. It's simply not a good reason. Why are we doing it? What is the value out of it? You can make the suggestion, okay, we need to collaborate more. Could a daily stand-up every day help? How would it look like? So again, as a coach, we need to look out for the word so we don't force people to implement these things. It should be a tool and practice to help solve our needs. Just want to check in, does this make sense? Now I can't see, I like when I normally see faces, you can kind of see on the face impression, are you with me or not? So I need to go into more details, is it adding value? So can I just ask you, if you are with me here, can I just give a thumbs up? Are we still good? Please, if you want me to elaborate some more, unmute and ask questions into it, because as long as I can't see, that's actually the interesting thing here about face-to-face communication. It's actually not always the spoken word, it's as much the body language. I'm not normally a big fan of speaking virtually because I'm missing the feedback from the audience via body language, where you can see, does it make sense? Doesn't it? Do I need to go in depth? So please feel free to interrupt if you have a question or you want me to explore or explain more into details. So just to sum up for right now, we're starting with the why are we doing it? And then as coaches, Scrum Masters, we need to understand we're not here to force them into a framework. We're here to give suggestion of stuff that can solve their problems and handhold that way of working where we experiment with the solution until we solved our problem. I've taken all Agile words out of this conversation when I have them with the teams. It's much more about listening to them and help them optimize. What you will see is also, when you make suggestion on solution to how to solve their problem, they're more likely to actually do it, rather than saying, you have to do this. No person in the world likes to be told what to do. Not even our kids say, am I the only one that has small kids? They really don't like to be told. I just have a little daughter now that is in the age of, I can do it myself. I want to do it myself. All human beings are the same in that aspect. We like to actually do things ourselves. We like to be empowered. Third thing, this one stands out for me a lot. because what's in it for me? And that's not me as me, it's actually your audience. What's in it for them? Because to help grow people and help implement a better way of working, you need to actually sell it a bit selfish to them. What are they gaining from it? What are they winning from it? I wrote in the small text where I treat each person differently. They all have different needs. And that's the thing. Often, if you work, in this case, the C-suite with a leadership team, they all define like together, what's the problem we're trying to solve, and maybe go together on a journey. But then to actually get everybody individual over the edge, we need to treat them individually. We need to treat them, what is the challenge for this person, and understand the complexity they are facing. Because if we work with leadership teams, they often have the teams underneath that's more complex and those things, right? We can't just, in a big enterprise, we can't see teams as independent. They're very often dependent on other people. And yes, sorry, I just saw the chat. You said we can't change people, but I didn't understand what you said about how we can affect change in people. Is if you combine these two, why and this one, if you understand that they have a problem, instead of just going in to implement, I'm going to use this simple example of a stand-up or even a retrospective. Let's do the retrospective. I'll use the stand-up now for quite some while. We tend, as Scrum Masters, Agile coach, saying, you need to be agile, we have to implement some sort of framework. Many of the framework have a retrospective. Let's do a retrospective. I'll put it in your calendar and then we do it. You haven't gotten buy-in. So we're trying to force change on them. What you need to actually is the sales pitch of understanding retrospective. What's that for? Retrospective is to inspect and adapt and get better. Okay, is there a need, a problem where they are stagnating and they're not getting better? So everything you think you want to implement, you should actually think, would it solve their problems? And that's with this triangle I tried to show you, because here, instead of just force them into it, they're familiar with it. They would like to stay over here. We're human people, right? We like to stay at what we know. We don't actually like change. But can we create, if we as Scrum Masters and coach stand over here, can we create the awareness of how this new thing would help them to make a better tomorrow? They are more likely to change. So instead of telling them you have to change, or you have to do this retrospective, do the sales pitch of, we would like to create, and let's again, take the agile words out. We don't even need to say we should have a retrospective. Can we set up a meeting where we explore what we could be different in the future? I'm trying to simplify it also now because of time, but I hope I give an idea of how you don't have to use often it's the keywords that scares people. Retrospective, what does that mean? What is that? What's the value of that? Why should I be there? If you sell it differently, think about the words you're using. Can we have a meeting where we just explore what have happened in the last 2 weeks and see how we can improve? So we can improve and solve our problems. More people are likely to join that than they are likely to join your certain retrospective that they are afraid of. What is it actually? So it's to generate more insight, the stuff we want to implement, what problems does it solve, and that was my next big thing, right? What's in it for me? What do I get out of it? Shinvendu, I'm not sure I'm saying your name right, but did that explain your question? I hope so. Else, please ask again. I'm digging deeper now, because often we talk about the team, and that was where we came from, right? You can't see a team independent, sorry. They're often dependent, especially like leadership. They have more teams. That's why we also sometimes often need to focus on individuals. What's in it for me? I want to give a little story. When I started in this company, and that's actually a challenge nowadays, a lot of companies have been on the agile journey for long, and they nearly have this hate against all agile words. Say they've been like, either it doesn't work or they've done so much. When I walked into this leadership team, one of the leaders was like, Malene, we have been on so much agile training, so theoretical, I don't want another training. Actually, many leaders have that these days. 2 reasons. Either they have been on a lot of training before and it's been very theoretical. Again, nobody follow the spine model saying, what are we actually trying to solve? We become theoretical around what is the 12 principles. What can I use that for? Always think about what is the value. Or secondly, they're in an environment that's not very safe, and there's an expectation of them knowing what Agile is, but they actually don't, and they're afraid of saying it. I see a lot on the senior management level that has this, I got hired into this senior position, I should know it all attitude. I'm not saying that's Agile, it's definitely not, but that's the environment they're often in. So we need to help them understand without actually pointing finger. So in this scenario, and it was actually something that triggered me to completely change the way I train, because when I was like, oh yeah, let me do leadership training all over the world. We do the same things, right? We have these theoretical things we need to go through, so you know what Agile is and Agile leadership and those things. But with his comment, I was like, wow. And I actually knew this guy had been on several Agile training, and I was actually nervous because I was like, I have to make it different. I have to make it powerful. So it goes in again. I challenge myself saying, how can we train them in Agile without talking Agile? I want to give you some examples that you can take. Still, one of the things when we talk with leadership is what is Agile leadership often comes up, right? And again, it's this keyword that scares them. But what does Agile mean? We used a half day with this leadership team. I've done with multiple leadership is, what is good leadership? Because it's no longer about Agile leadership. It's actually in general about good leadership. What is good leadership? What will it look like? And 2 seconds. We actually, instead of me telling them what good leadership is, I actually create a facilitated workshop where they explore and have conversation. What is good leadership? Something that really stood out for one of the training sessions I did was after we used like 2 hours of exploring what good leadership looks like, one of the guys stood up and said, but do we actually want this? And it was so powerful because many leaders talk about this, what is good leadership? How should our culture be? And blah, blah. And then they go out next day and do something totally different. So take the depth into what should actually change for us to do these things. I've included a little video for us to see. I actually think I quickly have to reshare just so I can get the sound over. This is again a little example on how I don't talk about Agile leadership anymore. I talk about in general what is good leadership. And in my training, I actually showed this. So it's like a 3-minute trailer. I don't know if any of you ever have seen the series New Amsterdam. If you've seen it, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I can see some nodding. Love that. I don't know if that was for me or if somebody else. Doesn't matter. I take it. So I'm a massive fan of New Amsterdam, and I think it can teach us a lot about leadership style. So I want now us to watch it so you can actually see and experience how I include in the training and see how it doesn't talk about Agile at all. And afterwards, we will talk about what could we actually learn from it. So I hope you're up for that. Let's try it. Let me know if sounds work.
New Amsterdam Hospital.
This hospital is a city unto itself. We perform the world's first C-section in the world's first maternity ward.
I know the history.
The dean makes me tell it to every new medical director.
And how many of those have you worked with?
5 in 5 years.
Will everyone in the cardiac surgical department please raise your hands? Great. Great. Thank you. You're all fired. Any department who places billing above care, you will be terminated. So,
before we go on, I just want to listen to the words that's being said throughout this little clip, okay?
can I help? You know, we all feel like the system is too big to change.
We'll call you when we have a doctor available, okay, hon?
But we are the system, and we need to change. Let's be doctors again. Going somewhere?
I have to tape segments with the morning show.
I actually expect you to practice medicine because it's your job.
You're funny.
We have a patient presenting all the signs of malaria, TB, or...
Ebola. I need you to do a throat biopsy. Just take a second.
Sure, for what patient?
Me.
This girl has been abused 3 times in the foster care system.
If you can't help Gemma as a doctor, then just help her as a human being.
Am I allowed to do that?
You are now. Why did you perform half as many procedures as your colleagues?
Because there's other ways to help people than by cutting them open.
Run the cardiac surgical department.
There is no cardiac surgical department.
Then build one.
Sometimes I join you.
Helmet now!
Forget it. I'm going in.
Dr. Bloom, wait!
Only the blind can see.
Gemma, what do you want to happen?
Nobody's ever asked me that before.
When you're in the half-light,
Working here, being able to save someone else's sister
and you live a half life.
or someone's daughter,
You only show heart to me.
it's a dream come true.
They're not gonna let you come in here and just help people.
So let's help as many as we can before they figure us out.
You need to slow down. You have cancer. But you knew that, didn't you? How can I help?
I showed this video to leadership, and yes, it's maybe a good trailer of a good series, but it's so much else. The thing is, there is a lot of videos out there that can train leadership. There's Simon, what's he called? There's so many good speakers out there. The problem is often those videos is being told what good leadership is. I want leadership for them to realize, what does good leadership look like? So again, I know there's not that many on the slides, but I would like you to think about and even add in the chat, based on this video, what could you learn about leadership? You're more than welcome to add to the slide or in the chat. See in the chat, service first. Leadership is selfless. You have to be bold. I love that one, you have to be bold, right? First in the trailer where he fires the cardio department, everybody's like, you got like, that's bad leadership. But if you, and that's why I stopped and said, listen to what he's saying. He's firing them because they are actually bad leaders. They saw profit over patient. He wanted to make a change. He did a bold statement there. And the end of the trailer, right, you see where he actually went to that one good person that was in that department and said, you should head it up because you can make a difference. Leadership is putting yourself in people's plight. Yeah, you have to be positive. So again, I think we need to stop to actually truly embrace Agile. We need to stop talking about Agile. We need to see a movie like this, right, that has an impact instead of being told. I don't know if you have seen all, like, if we go to YouTube, right, there's all like a lot of what people do and trainers does. They go and find these good leadership. Even you can see one of my first ones was Simon Sinek, right? He's so familiar with his good speak, and yes, they're good at listening to, but it doesn't change anything because we can all agree what he says. It sounds good, but what does it look like? That's the thing when we train people. Often it becomes very theoretical, and they can't relate to what would it look like. A simple trailer that the one I show you now actually show in practice. What does it look like? What can we change? Conversation I would have with leadership afterwards would be like, what do you need to change to embrace a culture like this? Help doing and be a model. Something that fascinates in the end, I don't know if you see how the two actually, it's the boss and the person underneath, right? How they actually shift roles. Whereas we asked, how can I help you? There's also, I don't know if you actually can see my t-shirt. How can I help? For me, that is the most powerful question you can ask. Let's not tell people. Being agile means we are hiring experts. They are knowledge workers. They know what to do. As managers, leaders, we should no longer tell people what to do. We need to understand how to help them to then perform a better job. The same for Scrum Master, the same for Agile coaches. Stop telling what to do and embrace and understand what is your problem and how can I help you to solve them. We are the service of making companies better, not forcing them. One of the other things I also train leaders in is actually the whole complexity versus complicated. Because we are trained as the human person to think about everything as a linear process. From school, we see everything as simple, it can just be done this. Why are we actually doing Agile? It is because we are in a complex environment. It's not complicated, it's complex. We work with people. There's so much uncertainty. So again, without even talking Agile, I often introduce this charter for them and draw up, not like this, again, empower them. How can they have conversation? I won't, because of time, I won't go too much into detail. I just want you to see it. It's a complexity model about understanding when are we in simple, what should you do there? When we're in complicated and complex. And my aim for them is to understand we're not doing Agile for the sake of the Agile. We're changing the way we work because we don't longer work in simple or complicated. We work in a complex environment where certainty are high, and because certainty are high, we are far from agreement. So get them to understand the complex environment, which many leaders or in general teams doesn't understand, will help them to get a clever understanding we actually want to change, because now we understand we work in a complex world. So how should we change? And again, then we help them with an Agile tool instead of just jumping there. So these things actually help them to understand why we should change and empower them to understand the benefits of it. One of the last one, I was just trying to take two of like three examples that you really could take away and implement straight away. There's of course more that I normally do, but one of the things that really stood out for me, instead of, if they know now as leadership is one topic, then they understand we work in complex instead of complicated. Then it's actually also, but how do we work? Because I see a lot of Scrum Master Agile coaches come in with a framework saying, this is the way we should work. Remember, a lot of these frameworks come with keywords that actually scares people. And if you remember the triangle, we need to demystify stuff. Let's not make it complicated or complex. So instead of what I do with leadership specific, I'm like, I don't come with a big framework. I get them to understand it's complicated versus complex. I know I'm now speaking on a high level, so to those of you that is new to Agile, I would suggest you go and read more about this. The whole idea is if you're in a complicated area, you can do more linear work because the certainty is not so high. Where in complex, we need to create experiments to create awareness and decrease uncertainty. For us to do that and create smaller experiments, instead of using a framework, that's what the Agile frameworks does. They create this small experiment, right? The Scrum framework, it's sprints so we can learn. But instead of talking about Scrum and have to get them to know Scrum, I go down to the empirical process of PDCA, plan, do, check, act. I don't have to say we have to have a retrospective, as I talked earlier. Let's get some of those keywords away. What is an experiment? Let's plan, do something, let's check it, let's react on it. Simply as that. In that framework, you then see, okay, will it not make sense, real leadership teams, that we sometimes should stop up and have even call it meeting, if that's the word they're familiar with, a meeting where we meet and inspect what we've done so far. Now suddenly you use plain English and demystify all these big words and you will actually see they start working in an agile way. We need to plan. Let's meet. Okay, for how long do you plan? Well, because there's a lot of complexity, we shouldn't see so far in the future. For the next 2 weeks, we just plan for the next 2 weeks. What are we going to do? Let's do it. And after we're doing it, we meet and see if it's added value and what we can change. Did I use 4 sentences and actually talked about Scrum without even talking about Scrum? It's really to try to go down to plain English where we can just see them get benefit in. Again, back to why are we doing, what are we trying to solve? I just saw, I do have, it would look like this, for example. For those of you that are familiar with it, the plan, do, check, act model, that's what all the Agile framework is based on. But let's put away the difficult words. Let's just talk plain English, because then it don't seem so scary. We don't have to use fancy words. Especially people think you higher up become in an enterprise, we have to use more and more fancy words because that's what they do. No, actually don't. We should simplify it so all people can understand. Because if all people understand, we're all on the same page, it's actually so much easier to do. I find the more complicated word we use, the more difficult it is to understand. And I don't know if you've ever heard the saying, I wrote you a long letter because I didn't have time to write you a short. It takes time to be specific, right? Let's try to use plain English when we work with teams, with companies, with enterprises. Last one, to make this a success. So just to sum up, right? We have the why. We need to understand, please don't implement Agile. Don't implement Scrum for the sake of it. It's not worth it. Understand the problem you're trying to solve. Understand you can't force people to change. If you have what you need to solve, you can show them solution to it that they might want to implement and help them solve their problem. Like, we are human people. We do like to solve our problems, actually. And then remember, if you work with teams, that each individuals are different and they have something they're trying to achieve, each individual. So we still have to treat them differently. But the most important thing is actually measure the right things. If you actually follow this correctly, what you should be measuring is, are we solving our problems? Many people I see go down and measure these down here. I made that example earlier, right? Saying, have people doing daily Scrum? Has people implemented Jira? Just trying to make up the most anti-pattern I see. Do they have Kanban boards? Do they have a Scrum Master? It's all a checkbox, but it actually doesn't tell anything that we achieved. So it doesn't tell anything about how agile are you. But I want you to understand, if you have made a list of what is the problem we're trying to solve, you can actually go in and measure, have we solved these problems? Without, it doesn't matter what tool we used, but are we getting better tomorrow? Are we adding value? Then we're being agile. Not because we have Kanban boards or Scrum implemented. That was kind of the sum up of the 4 most important things for me when you work with, if it's team, if it's with companies, if it's leaders. Marry yourself with this PIE model. It really changed my view of how to actually work and go away of, let's just do Agile for the sake of Agile. And it really empowers the whole thing. Let's be Agile without Agile. Because what is Agile actually? It's about being better tomorrow than we were today and understand how we can get there. Most importantly, repeat the same message over and over again. So I have a team of course, you cannot change a whole enterprise with one person, right? You have to be a line of group that repeat the same message over and over again. So even though you, for example, just have done one session training, having a conversation, what does good leadership look like? Tomorrow they're back being so busy that they're not going to change. I don't know if you've seen this picture. I actually love to use this picture also. Let me see if I can remember this one. This is what happens in most companies. They're too busy to actually change. You can stand over here with all your good ideas, but we all under so much pressure in a company that even though we know this will make it better, it won't happen because we're too busy. So what can you do? Do the same, not the same thing, but repeat the same message in different ways over and over again to help them grow. Small step along the way. Don't expect them to change everything tomorrow because it's not going to happen. This is a journey, another big thing. Don't call it agile transformation. Even my company is doing that and I hate it. It's a journey we're going on for continued improvement. Transformation assumes we're here and we have to end here. Being truly agile means we can always improve. It's not, doesn't have an end date. Lastly, practice what you preach. So again, if you have kids, I always like to make the example. Do your kids do what you do or do they do what you say? We don't understand, right? Like, why are you not doing what I'm saying? Because they do what you do. If you don't show up, if you don't show it as a good leader, you can't expect them to do it. I have agile coaches report into me and they once mentioned, how can your boss be your boss? You are such a better leader. Like, it's not about that. We can't expect that the person above you is always better because how are we then to change them? It's not about that. So, like, hierarchy is a whole political game in big enterprises. If we want to help change companies, as a Scrum Master, as an Agile coach, we can't let politics impact us. We have to be the better version of ourselves that goes in front and show the way it should be done. Yes, be a model. We have to show how it should be doing. Think about it every day. I had one asking me, Malene, why are you always smiling? Of course, I can't always be happy. But I taught myself as soon as I park my car at the office, I have to smile. I have to be the person. Because if I am not, how can they be? I don't believe in this. How can they do? So yes, sometimes it's an act, but that's what we have to do. That was my last comment for today. I hope it had value. I'm more than happy to get any questions. I can stop this here and then I'm happy to get any questions. I would, again, I know not all of you are on my slides, but I do like, now I got completely out of it. I do like feedback. So if you have a moment to add to the slide or chat, I'd always appreciate the feedback if it has value to you, because that's what it's all about. I think we have a minute or two to some question, if there is any. Time flies when you have fun. Either it didn't add value or I spoke so good that there's no question. I can only assume, hey? As I said earlier, there's many topics, there's many models that can be under this topic. I hope this gave you some thinking and some ideas on how you can do it different in the space you're working. Well, I don't know if that is a question. Welcome to unmute yourself and elaborate. Just being agile is the perfect manager. If I take it as a question, I would say it's a deep question because we need to go in manager versus leader, right? There's two different things. As an agilist, you should always be a leader, no matter if you have people reporting into you. Managers often do have people report into you. We should all be leaders, go in front, show the better world tomorrow, right? And then it goes beyond agile. It goes like, now it's Women in Agile Africa, right? I think it's so powerful. It goes beyond the success of our countries. If we all would just become a bit better and believe in people for the future, I think we all would create a much better, I know it's beyond country, Africa. Myself, maybe a bigger background. I'm actually originally Dane, but I live in South Africa and moved here for 8 years ago. I often get the question, why are you here? Moved from a first world country. And I often actually see, I can see nodding, I often get those questions from people that haven't traveled a lot. I'm like, Africa is such a gorgeous continent and so many opportunities. But I do believe we should start all to be more leaders so it becomes a better continent. And that's down to each individual. And yes, sometimes that maybe go hand in hand with Agilist, right? Because what is Agile actually? It's about continuous improvement. So can we embrace that? I think our whole continent would benefit from that. Also, if we think about women, right? Who tells us to slow back, right? We have we have so much power in us to actually make a difference. And I think also, again, the Agile mindset can help us in doing that. How do we become better for the future and stand together to create a better world, actually?
Hello, Marlene.
Agile. Hey?
Hi, hello, Marlene. Hello, everyone.
Hey, Nadia.
Sorry, I just joined late because I was in another Zoom, another talk. I came here to take the things over from Abigail. So yeah, I could hear part of your talk and really interesting. I understand why the comments say thanks so much, and I've learned a lot. In fact, it was a great talk. I don't know. I think we have no more time for questions. Anyway, I don't think there are any because okay, there's somebody writing something now. So yeah, selfness leadership. We get the best results and put the content on the right path. Yeah, as a comment, the question, yes, I completely agree. Yep. So thank you, Marlene.
Can I give a last comment?
Yeah, sure.
You're more than welcome.
Go ahead.
You're more than welcome to link up on LinkedIn if you also, and I'm always open for conversation. Hey, I truly believe it.
Definitely. Can you please drop your LinkedIn here in the chat so that anyone can can link up with you?
I'm easy to find. I'm the only one in the world with the 4 names. So Marlene MBA is kind of my hashtag. So I will be easy to find.
Great. Okay. If I got you well, said we don't talk about what to later show a better way to do things. Am I correct? Yeah, you can answer to the question, Marlene.
Yes, 100% correct.
Yeah, lead by example, right? Great. Thank you, Marlene. Thank you to everyone that has been here. We are getting ready for the next session. That should start in 1 minute. That one is going to be in Portuguese by Vivaldo Zacarias from Angola. Hi, Vivaldo.
Hello, Nadia. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Welcome back.
Okay, thank
you.
Welcome
back. Welcome back, because Vivaldo was with us last year at the conference, so it's always a pleasure to have our speakers to want to be here again, which means that the experience was good.
Yeah, it was very good.
Great. So we have another session now in Zoom 2. That one is in French, if I'm not wrong. Let me just confirm here. Okay, Zoom 2. No, it's in English. So for the English people, we will recommend that you move to Zoom 2. There is a session in English, because this one here is going to be in Portuguese. Okay. So Vivaldo, just give a couple of minutes just for this changeover, and then we go into your session, okay? Thank you.
No problem.
Did you say this session is going to be in Portuguese?
Yeah, it's gonna be in Portuguese.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Okay, no problem, Patrick.
All right.
Yeah. Tudo bem?
Olá, Teresa.
Olá, Nádia. Olá, Vivaldo. Como estão?
Bem, obrigada. Ansiosa para te ouvir falar mais tarde, Teresa.
Eu também estou, Nádia. Eu também estou.
Ótimo.
Vai ser bom, vai ser bom.
Vai, boa, boa, boa. Eu sei que vai ser.
Sim.
Okay.
Nádia, tu és muito desaparecida.
É verdade, é verdade. Estava com outros campos, outras avenidas, mas a conferência, eu na verdade este ano nem quis, eu resisti a fazer parte da organização por causa das ocupações, tenho uma série de coisas a fazer, mas a força das outras meninas me fizeram acabar por aceitar o desafio. E cá estamos todos.
Seu bom.
Okay.
Nádia, quando é que vamos ter a conferência presencial? Já pensaram nisso?
Olha, pensamos sim. Nós queríamos, inclusive, fazer este ano fazer um híbrida, presencial e virtual. Mas quando olhamos para os custos, a logística da coisa e não sei o quê, sem patrocínios garantidos, acabamos por desistir. Porque nós percebemos é que ainda há uma certa resistência ou não há muita aderência a conferências pagas em África. Ainda não há essa mentalidade de pagar-se para participar esse tipo de eventos. Então, nós teríamos que fazer algo gratuito. Sendo gratuito, nós teríamos que contar com fundos próprios ou de parceiros, doadores, para podermos organizar. E não tínhamos essa garantia, essa certeza. Por isso, acabamos por optar em fazer de novo virtual. Mas quem sabe para o ano.
Acho uma boa ideia e pronto. Acredito também que os próprios voluntários, né, também podem contribuir bastante sim, na disseminação da atividade, também na própria organização.
Sim,
então,
sim,
sim, é uma questão de se calhar prepararmos com maior antecedência.
Exato, se calhar é isso, é prepararmos com maior antecedência, tentarmos buscar um maior engajamento das pessoas e quem sabe. O Vivaldo acho que já está a criar uma comunidade forte em Angola, se calhar...
Estamos a dar os primeiros passos.
Os primeiros passos.
Por acaso
então, sim, mas o caminho vai-se caminhando, né? O mais difícil é começar. O Valdo começou, então vamos lá chegar.
Também aqui estou bem servido. Tem o Garra, tem a Teresa.
Nadia, let me stream Vivaldo on your channel, okay? Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, yes, please.
Thank you.
Ok, sim, Vivaldo, estavas a dizer que tens aí
Eu tenho
suporte,
boas
né?
companheiras de garra aqui.
Boa! É
Então,
importante, é
tudo certo.
importante.
Tem um bom pessoal aqui que já pratica, né? Individual, coletiva, já pratica, tem conhecimento, então cada vez mais vamos tentando estar juntos e vamos fortalecer. Acredito que o próximo ano será melhor.
Amém. Ok, bom, eu acho que está na hora.